Recording in progress.
Here we go. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like I must say that the same every time. Hey, everybody. I bet if you were to play all of our webinars back to back, they start exactly the same every time. I'm certain of it.
Just get little snippets of each one. Hey, everybody.
Anyway,
we do a super cut of all your intros, Kate.
Exactly. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. We're going to talk about Gemini for education, and we're going to kind of kick it off with we're going to pop a survey in there just to kind of get the temperature check on where people are at with AI at their school. But while you kind of finish that, do that poll, I'll do a couple little housekeeping things before I pass it off to our much more talented than I presenters, Anna and John. So a couple things just to get us started. So if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to put them in the chat. I will be keeping an eye on that and passing it along to John and Anna throughout the session. We'll also have time at the end to get anything that doesn't get addressed throughout the presentation addressed at the end. And then if you do want that coffee gift card to get sent to you after the session, I need you to stick around until the end and finish the exit survey. So make sure you do that. It's just a couple questions. Lets us get to know you a little bit better. A lot of you, I'm seeing a lot of familiar names, so you know the drill. So stick around till the end, do the exit survey. And that is pretty much all from me. I'm going to pass it along to John and Anna to kind of get us rolling on talking about Gemini for education.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. I'm John Hill, and I'm a teaching and learning consultant at Trifera, and I'm here with my colleague, Anna Hannerhan. But I'll introduce myself a little bit and tell you what we're doing here, and then I'll have Anna introduce herself to you. But this webinar is an admin's guide to Gemini, but I really want you to think about it in these terms. How is Gemini going to be transformative for the educators in your building? And how can you become more knowledgeable about explaining that to them, how they can really utilize that to transform their instruction and save endless administrative task time and just really essentially give them the personal assistant that every teacher and educator really needs. We all need a personal assistant, and I think that's a good way to look at Gemini. You could really train it to be what you need it to be in your classroom, and really be really effective way of giving you days back a month. So I'm an educator for 17 years. I was a reading interventionist and a special educator and a sometimes administrator. And I got out of teaching just about a year and a half ago. I did not get to use Gemini in my classroom. And I wish that I could, because I would be utilizing it insanely. But I'm using it in my work life. But let me pass it off to Anna to introduce yourself.
Right. Hi, everybody. I'm Anna. I'm also a teaching and learning consultant here at Trifera, along with John. I am also a previous educator. I like to consider myself still an educator. I feel like I'm teaching and learning all the time here. But I taught for 20 years in Central Illinois. I kind of ran the gamut with different things as a classroom teacher, as a STEM teacher, as a gifted teacher. And I'm of that generation where, we kind of rode the wave of technology. So when AI hit the scene, I was fascinated from the beginning and have really been trying to wrap my arms around it, just ride along with it, with all of these just cool breakthroughs and innovations we've really been seeing this last year and a half with generative AI. So I'm really been focusing on how to help teachers help themselves make their lives easier, better, and really reignite that spark and make them remember why they got into teaching, to help, relieve some of that load, and leveraging AI to help them do that.
Love it. And so, here's who was invited to this webinar. All of Trifera's current customers that get their workspace for education through Trifera. So that's who's on the invite list for that webinar. That's who our attendees are today. So welcome and hello, and thank you for being a customer. Also, the way that Google has it set up right now, if people want to buy Gemini, they have to get it from the place they get their workspace from. So we wanted to provide a really sort of educational, informational opportunity for you to really get a sense of what Gemini is, and also for you to see how it's going to be meaningful for the people in your building, how they can apply it to their work and make their lives better, and how you can get it quoted and purchased and provisioned and brought to your school. So those are all the things we want to really accomplish in this tight little 25 minutes that we have left. We have some other guest stars on the call that may be popping in here or there. And so we have Thea Wallstrom, who will be talking to us later about how if you end up wanting to get quoted, or if you would like to purchase Gemini for your district, she's going to take care of you there. And we also have Corey Kling on the line, who is our resident admin expert. If there's any more technical questions at the end, that two former or current teachers, we're still current teacher, we're teaching, we're always teaching, we're still teaching. But yeah, so we're here, and let's get started. We'll take a really quick look at this webinar agenda. It's mostly just going to be us showing you how to apply it in schools and how it's going to be applied in really meaningful ways. And then what else we got, Anna?
Yeah, we're going to just be showing some examples of it. Then we're going to get into a little bit of a day in the life, really showing applicable use of it, and what it looks like bringing it to your school and answering any questions that people on the line might have. So we're going to dig into it because we have a lot to get to in a small amount of time. And I'm sure there will probably be questions at the end.
Anna, one quick thing, maybe we want to just check out what the results to that poll were about people's AI in their district. Should we do that now, or should we save that for the end? What do we think?
Sure. Can I take a look at that? Does Kate have that data?
In with Kate.
I do.
Awesome. All right. So how would we describe our school's current level of adoption, usage of AI tools in the classroom? Let's see, it looks like 60% is just at that beginning exploration stage. And does that surprise you, Anna? It doesn't surprise me one bit.
Not at all. Not from what we've been hearing. I mean, we were just talking earlier. I was just in a couple really large districts. You were with me in one of them. We were right outside of St. Louis, and I was also in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I mean, it was just a tiny percentage of teachers who were even using AI, and the schools themselves didn't have any sort of official plan at this point either. They were just at the beginning exploratory stages of coming up with a plan for AI. So that looks about on target.
And furthermore, we've noticed in our travels and presentations in front of teachers, like a genuine anxiety and dis-ease about the idea of using AI. So we really want to be out there, giving teachers the opportunity to not be scared and to just get them started in ways that will inspire them. So I'm going to start off just by saying there already is a Gemini product that everyone has access to completely free of charge. It's very easy to use. It's a freestanding enterprise. You would open a browser window, go to gemini.google.com and use it in a similar way that you've maybe have been using ChatGPT or other things. There's a bar, you would chat with it, and does amazing things. And some of the details on this slide you can check out later. It's many of you may have already used it. The difference between this free product and the one that we're going to talk about that Trafera is now able to sell our customers, Gemini Education, Gemini Education Premium, is that those premium Gemini products are going to be able to take everything in your drive, learn who you are, and really use everything in your own ecosystem to drive your work performance and to improve all of your tasks, your administrative tasks, and your creative tasks too. But there is a free one. You should definitely check that out. Let's move on. Awesome. So again, there's the two paid versions, Gemini Education, Gemini Education Premium. Let me just quickly tell you the difference between them. We could go forward. One way to look at it basically is there's two paid tiers that you would add on to your workspace, Gemini Education and Gemini Education Premium. The premium is full access, unlimited usage of the sidebar of Gemini. The one to the left, which is the slightly less expensive one, has a maximum use per month per user of 1,000 uses of those sort of AI chat requests within that sidebar. So that's one thing to just kind of differentiate the two of them. There are some other slight differences, but that's sort of the major way of looking at them as different products.
And that 1,000 uses sounds like a lot, but it's amazing how quickly, once you really start getting comfortable using the AI, how quickly those uses disappear in a month, right, John?
Absolutely.
And I love how you mentioned earlier. I love how you mentioned earlier about this paid version of how it really gets to know you, how it can pull from your own data, your own emails, and along with that, it really gets to know your voice and your tone and how you communicate with others, and that's just a really neat feature of the premium version of it.
Totally. And at the beginning, when you first, give these to teachers, if they're really wanting to develop that, the Gemini to understand who they are and what they want and what they're going to be looking for, for content that Gemini produces and helps them produce, they're going to be using that a lot to really help it learn who they are and what they need. So that's one thing to think about. And we can move forward again.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to take this part. So really quickly, obviously, there's a website for everything. We're all familiar with websites, but I think that Google really kind of knocked it out of the park with their website for Gemini for Google Workspace. This is a great resource for you to take a look at if you're wanting to share this with somebody else in your district and have a concise place for all of this information that we're talking. It has everything that we have down in here, talking about the privacy and the security, talking about the pricing of everything. But this part was really helpful for me. It says Gemini is your AI assistant across Google Workspace for education. And when you click on each of these, it really shows you how it is baked right into these applications. It shows you right here in Docs how the Gemini prompt comes right up asking you if you want help writing it. This person is an instructional coach and they're wanting help drafting a lesson plan. So it was really hard for me to visualize, when I was hearing, oh yeah, they're going to have Gemini right within Google Workspace. I was having a hard time wrapping my head around what that looks like. Well, what do you mean it's right in there? So this is showing you, just the different parts in these applications where you can click it, this person's replying, and then they're just going to click this button and it's going to help them write an email in Gmail. Same thing with slides. You're going to open up a slide and it's going to ask you, right here if you want help creating an image with Gemini. So the fact that it's all integrated so seamlessly right in there and having this visual was really, really helpful for me. And we're going to have some more of these back here in our slide deck that we're going to go through right now, as a matter of fact. Right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that we're going to do it is we want to make sure that you understand that it's not just for teachers. We're going to show you some really inspiring ways that teachers can use it and how it's already right there. Teachers don't have to learn an entire new product or use something on the side, how it's all just sort of ad nauseum. We'll use the term baked in, but it really is just really baked into all of those different apps. So for example, you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, it gives you an idea of who this might be great for in terms of a person at your school or in your building. So instructional coaches, curriculum leaders can create lesson plan templates very easily. You're going to go into Docs. Obviously, all the ones I'll talk about are just how it can be utilized in Docs with the different roles at schools. But this one is asking them to help them, write tailored feedback for each student, which, if you were to have Gemini ingest a student's term paper, perhaps about, The Pit and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe, and asking it to give it feedback based on certain standards, based on certain parameters that perhaps you've already taught Gemini about, that your expectations are ahead of time, you're going to start to get, exactly what you're looking for in terms of your specific kind of academic responses to student work. So I think the tailored feedback is going to be great. Obviously, what we're always going to say, and I almost bet this is about what Anna's going to say, but the thing that will always make teachers not ever be replaced by AI is that, what am I going to say, Anna?
That, between the output and the student ingestion, you need the teacher. No matter what that AI is going to give you, you might be putting this information in there. It's going to help you tailor some feedback. But between that output of the AI, the teacher needs to get in there, read through it, tweak it, make sure it makes sense, make sure it's relevant to that specific student before it gets delivered to the student. So this is a tool to help teachers, to help them with, crafting their feedback, but it's not the end all be all. It's not, it's not a shortcut. It does need to have that teacher intervention as well. Is that what you were going to say, John?
100%. If you have hired a personal assistant and trained your personal assistant and you're asking them to write you personal correspondence, you probably want to look at it before it goes out, but it's going to save you a lot of time having that helper do that work for you. And that's really what Gemini is doing here, especially as it really gets to know what you're looking for. So if you look here, we have another, this in the top right-hand corner, you can see that this is an educator viewpoint. Any educator or professor can outline a syllabus very easily by using prompts. and being very specific with the prompts that you're asking for, perhaps around, whatever state parameters, state guidelines, whatever you're looking for, you would type it in and you would then tailor it and start to massage it into what you're looking for. And another thing in docs, we wanted to make sure we get something in here for administration. We're actually working on a project where we're going to be bringing Gemini to administrators at schools and specifically helping them, minimize their workload or help them with their workload with Gemini. But here's a great example. I mean, how many times are administrators, especially these days, posting for new jobs for teachers and paras and, school psychologists and all these different jobs that constantly require writing job descriptions and all of this sort of quote unquote busy work that is really important. And you obviously want the product to be really high quality, but you might need a little bit of help that might save some time so that you could spend less time writing job descriptions and more time in classrooms observing teachers and observing students and making sure that, education is moving forward in positive ways. So
right.
Awesome.
For something like that, yeah, the organization of it all and putting in the information you already know, but even asking Gemini to help, do you have any other suggestions of what should go into this job description, something that might not have even crossed your mind? And that's just such a cool thing, I think. But
Absolutely.
Moving on into slides, this one's super quick. Docs, there's just endless possibilities. There's a lot of possibilities in slides as well, but the kind of the big showcase right now is using slides to generate your own themes, your own illustrations for your slide deck. So you might want to be using your school colors or dependent on what the topic is, you can have this generative AI just create this brand new content to really accessorize and build up your slides just with the click of a button, which I think is pretty amazing. It's especially with teachers, they really like to have things exactly right. They want it aesthetically pleasing and to be able to really go in there with a theme, with the colors and be able to create that on your own. Something that nobody's ever seen before is just a really, really cool feature of this. So moving right along into Gmail, right up here we have the IT admin. A way of using this right within Workspace is, drafting an email. I think a lot of us know that we can use AI for this right now. Personalizing the tone, refining the details, just really helping you craft either a professional or a friendly or a formal email. But beyond that, this has been one of my favorite things is recapping emails instantly. We have education leaders up here, but this is great for admin. And I'm sure for, a lot of people on our technical side, you get all these emails, you get all of this information, and sometimes you just get glazed over and you just copying and pasting that. And you're asking, what are the main points of this? What do I need to know? So summarizing this and then creating a draft based on the summary can save a crazy amount of time, I would think.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's already a favorite is the recapping
Right.
emails.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. One way that I've used it is I've actually had a Google Meet about a very sort of, complicated thing that I was not fully grasping, but was going to have to summarize. So I got a transcript from the Meet because, it transcribes everything into text. I got a transcript and then I use Gemini to start to summarize that and to create an email to summarize it for other people.
Well, yeah, and to just create a more concise notes to reference back to later to have, because there's, there could have been a meeting from last week and I was like, of course I was at that meeting. Of course I remember it, but what did we talk about again? What were you just kind of get those brain freezes, and just to be able to reference back to that and have that done for you. It's just really helpful with organization.
Absolutely. And if of the Google apps or of the products in the world that give you the most anxiety, if like Sheets and sort of creating spreadsheets is one of those things, this is like the one. This is for you, because now instead of having to have taken a class in college about how to make Excel or Sheets in Google, you really can talk to your sidebar Gemini and kind of tell it how to construct what you're looking for. You'll notice in this animation, it's it gives you a first draft, but then you could go and refine and add columns and add drop down menus and things like that. So I mean, this is just like that, the illustration that it's showing right now, like I would only be able to accomplish that probably with Gemini. I mean, maybe.
That would be days of work. Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
how they say finesse as needed. That's really it. Just finesse it, go in there and tweak it.
Finesse.
Finesse.
Indeed.
That's a great word.
generating an agenda. If you were to generate an agenda using Sheets rather than something like Docs or whatever, this is another great way to do that, and create a document. And then again, there, finesse. It's all about finessing it into what you need. But I think some of these animations kind of tell the story almost better than we can. Like you can see that it is as simple as a really well written prompt, which you'll get good at. And we'll talk about towards the end of this, like, if you do decide to purchase one of these two Gemini, premium products for your district, like highly recommend some PD from Trafera. It's us, it's the TLC team that would be doing it. And I really think that that's how you're going to really accelerate teachers' interest. They're going to get excited about it right away. We're going to give them ways to immediately get a day back, a week of things. We're going to basically help them essentially automate things that, they would normally, really spend a lot of time on. And I think they'll think that's fun, and that will please them, I think.
At 100%, at the beginning of all this, so much of it is you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? There's so many, we're going into and working with teachers, and just the light bulbs that are just popping off. I taught third grade for a long time, and I had the privilege of seeing those light bulbs all the time with these 9-year-olds. And to be able to see that with adults, when you're just showing them different ways to utilize this to make their lives easier and enhance it, and their reactions, it's just unbelievable. So
and going off what you just, I was actually just going to say, later in the presentation, we're going to do but actually it's the next slide. So that's great. No, let's go to the. So we wanted to really talk about, like, okay, well, we're teachers. How would we have some obviously a little bit more background than perhaps most of the teachers that are going to be at your schools right out the gate. But, we're not like AI programmers. We're teachers at heart. So like we wanted to think, like, how would we immediately start using this? And so we each have a little scenario of how we would do that. Annie, you want to start?
Yeah, my favorite thing is when I was teaching, the curriculum is created for those average middle of the road typical students, but you're always going to have those students that are higher, that have already mastered that content. You're going to have those students that are struggling with the concept a little bit. It's challenging. They're not ready for where the rest of the class is. So differentiating, extending for those higher learners and modifying for those learners that are struggling a little bit. And that was always so time consuming, because you had to take that same content, those same standards, and really adjust it for the different learners. And that would take triple the time. So this is one thing I've played around with AI a ton, and having this just built right into Docs, of putting in the standards, putting in the topic, asking it to adjust it for a higher level. If you're working with third graders and you ask it to extend it for maybe a 5th or a 6th grade level. And conversely, taking it down to a 2nd or 1st grade level for those students who aren't quite at that point yet is just really mind-boggling. The amount of ideas and suggestions that they give, that you can then go in and take and massage and finesse to make a lesson plan that's appropriate for your students is just transformational.
Yeah, and you can even reference previous lesson plans that are now living in your drive, from year to year, unit to unit. I mean, everything is going to speak to each other. So that's Anna's scenario. So Anna, that's like sort of a personal how you would, but I didn't teach high school. I taught K to 5. So I taught elementary and primary age kids. But when I was just at ISTE, I had a conversation with high school teacher. And they were like, well, how could this be relevant to me? And we ended up talking about the fact that this person writes like 20 letters of recommendation for students every year for like outgoing seniors, and, for their little jobs that they're getting, not little jobs, their big jobs that they're getting, and their college, future colleges and stuff. And, we were sort of quickly conversationally adding up how much time these high school teachers spend writing letters of recommendation. And I was like, well, that's something Gemini can really save you with, because you can really, teach it how to write a letter of recommendation the way that you want them written, with your voice and your style, and teach it how to do that, and then have it pull from, like documents about that particular student, perhaps about their performance, about their hobbies, about their, activities in high school. And if you have that all living in your workspace, that can all be pulled from. And this task can be something that, instead of taking 45 minutes or an hour for you to craft a really nice, thoughtful letter of recommendation for a student that you really think very highly of, you can take that task and sort of turn it into something that's more like a 15-minute task. And that includes the time that, it takes for you to go in there and make sure it's the letter that you think most strongly represents that student that you think so highly of. So that's a very important one. One thing I want to say, so we're sort of concluding the little vignettes and examples of how it's relevant to the different educators in a building. This is a free course. We're going to share these slides with you, and all the links on here will sort of help you with, find the different resources that we talked about. But this is a great course, very simple. It's like 45 minutes or less. I highly recommend everybody take it. Essentially what it is, it's you're going to discover ways to use Gemini as an assistant in both your professional practice as well. You can, as well as in your personal, your Gmailing and things like that. And it explores how to use Gemini, both the standalone sort of free experience as well as the premium experience within Workspace. And it's going to get you really, really dangerous with Gemini within the apps like Docs, Gmails, and Slides. And sort of by the end of the course, you'll be really prepared to use Gemini to boost productivity and enhance your work. So it's really,
I took that course. It was, learned a lot of new things. I thought I was pretty proficient with it, and it was a very useful course to take for beginners and those that are a little bit more advanced.
Exactly. Just want to add one thing real quick. If anyone has any questions, you could pop those into the chat, and we'll try to, before we wrap up, have one of our team answer those questions for you. So this is what I referenced a few minutes ago. If you do decide to bring Gemini to your school, even with like a small amount, like one license or a whole bunch of them, and really try them for your whole teaching team, I highly recommend that you do that with some PD from Trafera. We would love to get your educators excited about Gemini and help them hit the ground running. And we could do that in small ways and larger ways. We could do it virtually. We could do it in person. And at the end, we'll have a contact person that you could talk to and email about anything from quoting to finding out more about PD opportunities through your rep. Okay. Awesome. Now I'd like to introduce Corey Kling, who has been on the call, waiting in the wings as our admin, in-house. Go ahead, Corey.
Hello. Thanks, everybody. I just wanted to take just a couple seconds to address what it looks like for the administrator. So primarily speaking to super admins within the Google environment or the Google admin environment. So primarily, basically, it will be set up within the admin console and turned on or segmented out by organizational unit, much like those admins that are on here are used to. And so when you go to apply this, the binary function of on or off, as you do within your applications in your Google admin console on the left-hand side, this Gemini as a tool will be listed under the additional resources. So it is not one of the built-in apps underneath the apps for Workspace. It is an additional feature. And so when you go to your app waffle within your Google environment, it will show up in your app waffle, but it will be in that third group down below the lines where you've got your basic applications and down through. So on your waffle menu, you'll see it there, but you'll have to turn it on as an additional service. You see here on the slide, basically the order of events. You'll purchase the license. You're going to assign them, like I just said on number 2. You're going to ensure that it's turned on in the admin console, like I just addressed there with that binary function of on or off that you're used to, on for everyone, off for everyone within the organizational unit. And then once the licenses are assigned, your users, love it. Once they're assigned, your users can get started with Gemini Education right away. So basically what that's saying is once you've set that up, then those workflows, those like layovers within your Google Apps will be there for your end users. I mean, I can't say you may have to do like a log out or a log back in, but they will be there for those users. Okay, so then you can go to the next slide, John. And so when we talk about this turned on, I had mentioned that like how you turn it on. And then one other thing I wanted to mention was once it is turned on, you will have you will see as an administrator an additional sidebar menu right below apps in your Google admin console. you'll see generative AI and Gemini reports. Those are basically where you can go in and pull from certain dashboards to determine how many chats have been used, users that have used a lot of chats, and if they're coming up against the maximum number that they have. And plus you can do you can do this by OU. So you don't have to just do it at the top OU level. You can do it by OUs down below that. So when you really look at like the two sides of the house, on of course, the end user side, before that happens, you have to set it up on the admin side, and it's a relatively simple process. So thank you, John and Anna. I'll take you guys back in.
Thank you, Corey. And Corey's here with us until we wrap up, which will be very soon. In case anyone has any questions in the chat, that might be more technical in nature. But you want to move forward, Anna, and we'll. I do want to introduce one more Treferian, the lovely and talented Thea Wallstrom, who is a Google product expert at our company, and she's here to tell you how to bring Gemini to your school, if indeed you would love to, with quoting and pricing information and even a really cool discount. So, Thea.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, John and Anna, for that. That was awesome. But yeah, so just like Gemini pricing, right now until August 23rd, we do have some discounts. So you get a 25% off if you have Education Plus, and then 20% off for annual commitments. So annual commitments for both of those. And then just for general next steps, if you are interested in getting a quote, and if you want to go to the next slide really quick, you can just send me an email, which is theawallstrom@trefera.com, and I will get you in touch with the correct person for a quote. And then if you just have any general questions with ordering information and PD as well. And then also for that 25% off, even if you just buy one license right now, that will lock in that price for that year if you want to add additional licenses.
Thea, I'm just going to interrupt just to say, I've had a lot of conversations with IT leaders recently about Gemini who have chosen to do that thing where they buy one license because, they're interested. They maybe have like a right-hand man or woman teacher who they, really always check in with about the tech in their school and really kind of know what they're doing. And they really want to be that person always that's ahead of the game. Maybe that was Anna in your school, Anna, always wanting to, kind of like, try the new tech thing. But so a lot of IT leaders are taking advantage of this thing, just buying getting one license commitment, and that locks in that price. And then for the next 12 months, they have the opportunity to keep that price should they want to buy licenses for, every adult in the building, principal, teacher, para, whoever. So you get to kind of keep that price. So it is a way for you to kind of try it, because obviously Gemini is quite an investment, and we certainly know quite a little bit about it now. So we know that it's expensive, but for a reason, because it's a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different things you probably won't have to pay for anymore once you start to be using Gemini the way it's meant to be used. But I think I summarized the discount thing, Thea. How about, did I?
Yeah, no, that was great. But yeah,
Awesome.
Buying the one is definitely a really great way to try it and see if it's going to work well for you and your district.
Awesome. And then one thing we want to point out for the folks that are on this call, because again, we invited just our Trefera customers who get Workspace from us. Don't forget that we have a new monthly briefing, the admin briefing around Google Workspace. Very well attended. I think it's a lot of fun. We talk about all of the sort of latest things relevant to admin, and there's some Q&A and some really, really great personalities and smart people from Trefera who have a lot of answers to questions you might have. So here's the QR code if you are interested in joining us for those admin briefings. All right. And here, Kate, do you want me to talk about this exit survey? Or people probably know what to do with that.
Yeah, I think y'all know what to do with that. So that, again, that's your way of letting us know that you're here, you're listening, and that you want that coffee. So make sure before you head out, you take the time to take that survey, and we can just start winding down with some thank yous and any questions that people might have at the last minute here. I know we're a little bit over time, so thanks for bearing with us through the extra 4 minutes. But I will just say thank you so much, Anna, John, Thea, Corey, for helping answer some of maybe these top level questions that people are having about Gemini. We're super excited to be your resource and your partner through all these new changes with AI and all these cool new tools. So never hesitate to reach out to any of us. And thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll leave the exit survey up for you to take on your own time, but bye-bye. Until
Bye-bye.
next time.
Thank you.